And I'm just going to click the record button here real quick. And I want to introduce our speakers. Of course, Sue Bell needs very little introduction. She's the founder and CEO of ThemeZoom LLC and a friend of mine for pretty much the last decade from the very beginning when the whole business started with ThemeZoom, and we were actually talking about the semantic web as early as 2005 and 6, although I thought she was completely insane at that time. Now it's turning into a reality. The Semantic Revolution is one of her other companies, started in, I think, 2010 or so, so she's been talking.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for a while, so it's not new for Sue. So both of these are natural language processing companies. She's also the co-founder of Network Empire, pretty much the backbone of that company, as well as several others that I won't even mention here. So as the co-creator of the mastermind behind ThemeZoom's Kraken, or vertical market analysis tool, which I hope some of you are familiar with, and another tool also uses natural language processing called the Last Keyword tool. She played a huge role in the creation of DWS, Network Empire Silo Builder, which I know you're also familiar with. I'd also like to add my favorite kind of profile for Sue. She's a military industrial programmer in Europe for many years, seriously big projects, not plugins, gigantic enterprise applications for the military. I've learned everything that I know from her about programming and development and databases, and continue to be amazed by how many dots she connects. I'm also going to introduce our other speaker and my friend, Kevin Pauly. Now, Kevin is the founder and director of Mutual Advantage Ltd., which was established in 2005. He's been dominating markets and actually been working with us for several years now. He's been on the internet since '96. Now, financial institutions and small businesses alike have used Kevin to get the most from his e-commerce technologies. He has a huge amount of passion in the semantic markup area and the semantic web, which is how the dialogues and a whole lot of very late night conversations started between Sue and Kevin. And of course, you probably worked with him at one point or another if you've ever worked with our company on the help desk or any of our webinars. He's been around for quite a while. So he's going to be talking to you a lot today about the semantic web as well. Now, the stuff that we're going to be revealing in this webinar is for members only. If you're here, you're a member. And this is I think, one of the final webinars leading to a full-on, would you call it, Sue, a mentoring course, or how would you call it, just a semantic web program, where we actually train them how to work with the semantic web?
Yeah, it's going to be an in-depth course, hands-on, and then we can follow that up with some optional one-on-one stuff.
Yeah, we'll be talking, yeah. And sorry, I kind of blindsided you a little prematurely, but we've got a whole lot of stuff happening. And we're going to be talking to you more about Hummzilla. Hummzilla is kind of the marketing spin that, of course, I just can't help myself. I put on the hummingbird thing. That's what I do. So, they use me when they can. The main thing to understand, folks, is that things are transforming. And for our team, it's transforming in a way that we love and we're really excited about. And because we have such a huge webinar, I'm going to immediately step out of the way and let you guys just jump in. And again, I'm manning the question area. If you have questions, we'll probably be reserving specific times because there's so much information to cover about the semantic web and these changes that I'll let Sue and Kevin just kind of tell me when we need to start going through any questions. I'll answer the ones I can, and I'll keep the ones that are really amazing for the question and answer sessions. Thanks, Mike Hayden, for joining us. It's 3 a.m. where some of you guys are. I know some of you have actually literally stayed up till early morning hours to be able to attend this live event. There will be a replay in the members area and in the private members area. And I don't believe the last 15 minutes will be recorded, but we'll look at that. And thank you, guys, and we'll see you in the question and answer session. Go ahead, guys.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Russell, and a big warm welcome to all of you. It's really great to be back. I can't believe that a month has gone by since we had the first webinar. So in this follow-up webinar, we're going to cover quite a few topics, and we're going to start with the move from capitalism to informationalism. the importance of being you and being real in the semantic web. We're going to cover serendipity and citations. We're going to look at reputation on the semantic web and what it means to you. Then we're going to cover some of the plugins that we've been looking at in the last month. And as Russ said, then we're going to have a Q&A session as well. And slightly different in this webinar, we've actually got some questions for you. And there'll be a couple of points through the webinar where we're going to ask for you to give us some feedback and then answer these questions. So the first thing that's come up, I had this wonderful presentation and I went to sleep, and the rule in this company is you're not allowed to sleep, because when you do,
that's right.
It is, isn't it? And what happens is that things change. And one of the things that we've been looking at is how to improve search. And for the semantic web, lots and lots of changes are going to come about. And what you're looking at here is my blog, where I've put a completely different type of search engine onto this blog for two reasons. Now, the concept behind this is that by improving the search functionality within your own blog, it's not going to only help your customers find exactly what they're looking for when they reach your site, but by having a better search engine within your content, you can actually make your site a search engine. So what I'm going to do is just change a few things here. Now, this is a WordPress blog, and as you can see, if I start with the letter B, for example, what happens next is that in the background, this search engine goes through all of the content on the site, and it works in the same way as Google does. It comes up with other options for you so that your customers can see the words that are within your site that are important to them, and just literally come straight down, click on exactly what's important to them, and find all of the information around that word or phrase. And another important aspect of this is under the categories. This is semantic technology, which is using the database behind your site to give you faceted search. So if you are looking for content based on the categories within your site, then you can literally narrow the search down a little bit further, and it will bring those elements to the fore. Now, that's not where this particular element ends, because within the search bar, what you're now able to do is you're able to add this particular site as a search engine within your browser. So if you've got the kind of content that your users are looking for and you're an authority, the content is useful, rather than just go to Google, you've now got the ability to actually use the search engine from a browser for that site and be specific about it, and it will bring back the results within the site that you're looking at. So what I've essentially done is turned my blog into a search engine, and the logic behind this is that because this is an open search engine and I've got the right code in there, I'm kind of hoping that over the next couple of months that Google's actually going to take notice of the fact that I'm a search engine as well. We'll report back to you on that and let you know how that goes. So,
can you guys say market domination?
Hopefully, I mean, Kevin's going a little bit fast for you guys. I've had to do quite a bit of reading just to catch up on some of this stuff, but there's certain kinds of protocols that occur when the structure of your site and the database is search-oriented. So this is about having your own search engine that, of course, Google handles differently than merely the indexing of pages.
Definitely. And what we're going to try and do, where this leads to, is that in the old way of doing things before Hummingbird and semantic search became really front and center for a lot of you guys, you were all thinking about increased rankings. And what we're going to try and do throughout this presentation, this webinar, is get you to start thinking more about enhanced visibility. So this is where we can really start looking at how the semantic web has come from almost nowhere and why it is going to be a really big factor moving on from capitalism to informationalism. Now, a lot of you will have already heard of the 4 Ps, which are product, price, place, and promotion. And you'll have used them within your marketing material to, identify your USP, get the price out there, where to sell it, and how to promote it. And in the new semantic web, the 4 Ps have actually become the 4 Es, and this was something coined by Ogilvy and Mather, where product has actually become an experience. On the web, you're not just selling a product anymore, you're giving your visitors a brand new experience. And price isn't just about money, it's about an exchange of thoughts, ideas, and of course the money. Now, place, you're not just dealing with one place anymore, not one location, not one website. You're dealing with every place, which comes back to what Russ has mentioned before within the training about having your own personal broadcasting network and getting your message every place. And promotion, that's changed to evangelism. It's not just enough to be having a product that you promote. You need to be 100% about your product. You need to sing about it from the rafters and be evangelical about everything that you do.
Okay, stop. Go back for a sec. I want to slow you down here because you and I have been talking about this for a week, but this is brand new to these guys, and there's a lot here for them to really take in. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is this shift from capitalism to informationalism. So several hundred years ago, back about the time that the Gutenberg press was invented, we had what was called feudalism. And there was a shift that happened when we moved from feudalism to capitalism, and now we're making another similar shift from capitalism to informationalism. And so what you're seeing here on the left-hand side, these are things that are related to capitalism: product, price, place, promotion. These are the things that we've all grown up with. These are how commerce is rooted in our day-to-day life.
Hey guys, we get a lot of questions. Sue, what is informationalism in a nutshell?
Right. So informationalism is this time that we're in right now, which is moving from capitalism, which is commerce-based, to informationalism, which is information-based. So our entire world is shifting to technology and information. Technology has become so pervasive, so inexpensive, so much a part of our everyday life that information is all around us. Everything we do, we've got, whether you look on your iPhone, whether you look on your watch, whether you're looking at your computer, whether you've got your iPad in your hand, everywhere we're inundated with information. It's become an almost seamless part of our life. And so as we move forward over the course of the next decade, it will become completely seamless. It will become so entirely integrated that you won't even know that you're accessing the web. You won't even be aware of the fact that your reality has been augmented with the data from the web. And so that's how come we're moving from product to experience.
So what you're saying is the semantic web is pretty much a silent, disruptive technology. Most people will never know what is gained or lost.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. Continue.
Okay, so that follows on with this. Now, there is a new currency afoot, as Sue has just outlined to you. And the sentence that you've got there is from Swedish philosopher and thinker Alexander Bard. And what we've been trying to get in this webinar for you is to start this mind shift for yourself that the semantic web is there and you're going to have to start thinking differently to really capitalize on the benefits of it. So at the end of this webinar, we're going to put this up for all of the members, and the links that you see there to Alexander Bard's TED Talk will make available for you within the members area. So is there anything you want to say there, Sue, before I move on? Yeah? I thought there would be.
So what he's talking about here, like, this is just one of the most amazing quotes. He's talking about this shift from feudalism to capitalism to informationalism. But the last sentence there, the person who has experienced the largest number of the most extreme kicks. So in other words, the winner is no longer the person who's the closest to the king's ass, or the person who has the most money when he dies. But today it's all about experience. The shift that we're moving into, the change that our life is moving into, as you look back through how information has changed society so profoundly, how knowledge and the sharing of information, every time we get a huge shift in the ability to be able to share information, it changes how we relate to each other, it changes our entire life. And so what we're moving into right now is an experiential aspect. And it's just so cool. There's, like, the thing that's really opened up for me in the last couple of weeks, because I've been aware of the semantic web, and I've been aware of all of the possibilities that are going to become available as that information becomes completely indexed. One of my biggest frustrations is the same frustration that drove Tim Berners-Lee to actually create the web in the first place, was particularly in the 80s and early 90s, is sitting around with all of these different computers, and they all speak a different language, and they all have databases that don't talk to each other, and trying to get the data from one database to interface with the data from another database. And I worked for the military, and so we had, every single department, the military had funded its own thing. They had their own computers, they had their own databases, and even so the data was similar, the data couldn't be married up easily. So they actually had to spend a lot of time and money to get the data to marry up. And the same kind of frustration that Tim Berners-Lee was going through, what drove him to actually come up with the idea of hypertext data and the semantic web.
Sue, you said, people are asking, you said Tim Berners-Lee, and who
Yes.
was he?
He's the guy who invented the internet.
Oh, right. Okay,
He
we're just
invented
checking.
the web.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he's
he invented
English.
Well, that just figures. Of course. So what you're saying, Sue, is he invented HTTP, which is Hypertext Markup Protocol.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To solve the problem of connectivity.
Correct.
Okay.
To make data, to make it so that data could talk across multiple devices and across multiple databases without having to worry about the structure that they were in.
Yeah, because Brian Dunlap says he thought Al Gore created the internet.
Yeah, Al Gore thinks he did too.
So, is there anything else you want to say to that, Sue, or should
No,
we
we'll
wrap?
get on to more later. That's okay.
Okay. So where that leads us is taking all of that background information on where we were to where we are now, is Google has used this kind of knowledge, and they're now the important influencer at this particular moment in time. We use them for search and everything else. But some of you will be aware that when Hummingbird came out, a book by David Amerland was also released called Google Semantic Search. And what I want you to do now, we're coming up to a point where it's your time to give us a little bit of feedback, is just have a quick read of this sentence that David has quoted within the book, because we're going to ask you a couple of questions in the next screen. So now you've got that, okay?
The SEO industry has, what? Say that again? Perhaps
For the first time, perhaps perhaps I should have done a spell check. Perhaps in the SEO industry, the cost of looking for shortcuts to ranking in search is higher than the cost of not doing so.
Okay.
So this leads into the importance of being you and the importance of being real. So the question that we're going to ask you now is, in the little window that you've got there, can you guys tell us what you think this cost is that David was talking about? And I'll just go back a screen so that those of you that didn't read it.
I didn't even understand the sentence, to be honest, like what he's trying to even say.
Okay, for the first time, perhaps in the SEO industry, the cost of looking for shortcuts to ranking in search is higher than the cost of not doing so. So the question is, what is the cost that David's on about? There's some really good answers coming in there, Sue.
The cost of being anonymous is being irrelevant. Ooh, that's a good one. The cost of getting hammered for spamming. You risk your own profile to be tagged as spam. Integrity, authorship, not spamming. Branding, the cost is branding. Your online reputation. Yeah, these are good. You guys got it. Losing trust and credibility. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let's ask you the second question. Why is the price so high? Okay, so the new question based on what David Amalan said is, why is the price so high?
Because you only have one chance. Once and you're gone. You're either trusted or you're not.
Yeah.
Everything is based on your reputation.
No long-term relationship. Excellent.
Yeah. Can't fake it. You may be known by your actions.
You have one shot. Andy says you have one shot, which I think is accurate as well, with the semantic.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so now you're in the feel of this. If we think we are now outside this circle of trust, and some of you have got that, what can we do about it? So as we move on, in the semantic web, Google's hummingbird era, there are three elements that you can't ignore, and if you do, you do so at your peril. The first is trust. The second is reputation. And the third is authority. Now those are the three key elements, I'll repeat it again, that you ignore at your peril. And we're going to expand upon that a little bit later on in this webinar. So what are the things that you can do within Google to build up this trust and get the authority? What's going to help you here and now to start capitalizing on the semantic web, the introduction of Hummingbird? Well, the first thing you can do is to link your site to your G+ profile. Okay. The next thing to do is to add your image, and they like a nice face, and as I've said to one of my clients who had a side-on view, you know, when they run the algorithm through, they might think you're Cyclops. Let's have it slightly on so that you've got two eyes, a nose and a mouth. The next thing is to fill out your history. Now there's lots of different opportunities within your G+ profile to give more information, and it's not just for Google's benefit. By filling out your history, you're giving potential visitors to your site and people that are looking at you, who is this person that's giving me this information, more information about you, and to start building that trust.
Exactly.
Now once you've gone through the basics, then you can get yourself a business page. So you've already linked your website, and when you have a business, the next step is to use your profile and create a business page. Again, there'll be information to fill out where you can put your brand and information about your business, and this is all building up some form of credibility to your visitors. After you've got your business page, the next thing to do is to put yourself squarely on the map and to get yourself a business places page for your business. So those are the things that you can do now, and we'll expand upon these within one of the courses. But for those of you that want to get more help, there is a G+ community called Google Authorship and Author Rank. Mark Trapper-Hain, I think you pronounce his surname, and there's a whole community there that is helping people like you to get everything right, and they're dealing with the constant changes that Google are throwing out relating to authorship and author rank, and we'll feed those back to you in the webinar and the members area.
We have a slew of questions.
Okay.
I've answered a few of them that I actually know and have had experience with. For example, can we link multiple authors to a business page so we have 3 or 4 bloggers on one site? Answer to that question, Mike, is you can assign admins for your business pages on Google+, but those admins will also have to have a confirmed Google+ in the first place for you to assign them as admin. Sue and I have done this several times for clients and ourselves. They also have to be confirmed markup, and if you want an admin to have an author markup on their blogs, that admin's also going to have to be confirmed through their own verification process with Google+. So it's turtles all the way down, guys. Everybody has to connect their. And it's not just about Google+. This is only one aspect, okay? Google+ is ground zero for Google to attempt to get identities confirmed. But it's the beginning of a major wave globally on confirming objects and identities with sites. Okay, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And as Russ has just said, this is what you need to do to help yourself with Google at the moment.
And you guys,
lots of others.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Kevin. There's other things. There's a lot of other really specific questions about Google+. I'd like to leave that for a different time. Guys asking about YouTube channels and all that. I promise that I will cover all that, and that Kevin and Sue and I will cover all that at some point. We just want you to get the general overview, and I love the fact that you guys are already starting to do stuff. But just sit back and look at the global overview, because some of the things that Kevin's going to be showing you will fill in the gaps in a very, very practical way. And Sue, of course, will then confirm that with other things. We're going to be talking to you about plugins and different things like that. Okay.
Yeah. So as we move on from that, the next section that we're going to talk about is serendipity and citations. So the first thing to answer for you guys is, what is serendipity? And essentially it's a happy accident or a pleasant surprise. And specifically, it's the accident of finding something good or useful while you're not actually looking for it. And when you're in the search engines, we've probably all done this. You have one term that you look for and something pops up and you think, oh, that could be useful. And this is happening more and more and more. So some actionables for serendipity now, because serendipity is going to play a really, really big part in the Hummingbird algorithm and how you get found. What we want you guys to understand is that right now you need to have content that connects pretty much everything you do, okay? And the reason for that is that you have to get your message out there, and you want to have really useful content that answers your questions. This is stuff that we go over in the courses. You're looking to solve pains for people, answer the questions that they're asking indirectly in the search engines, and then connect all of that up to build a bigger business picture that not only your visitors can find, but that Google can see. Now, another actionable for serendipity is to be your own little iconoclastic self. And I know that Sue is going to talk about this. But for those of you that are thinking, iconoclastic self, I actually went out and I've got a definition for you, and then Sue can expand upon this. An iconoclast is a person who attacks or criticizes cherished beliefs or institutions.
Or simply represents that. It doesn't have to be an attack.
Exactly. But there's certainly a challenge in beliefs.
Yeah.
So, Sue, what would you like to say about this element?
So my take on an iconoclast is somebody that challenges the status quo, right? So if you're outspoken, if you're an original thinker, if you're, and pretty much anybody who's in business is this kind of a person, whether or not they're an extrovert in their iconoclastic selfness or not. And so what I'm really wanting to say here is I want to encourage you guys to be more yourself, like to express more your own original ideas and not be afraid to challenge the status quo, because the more that you put yourself out there, the more that you have original ideas, the more you're going to attract attention, which we'll get to in a moment. Back to you, Kev.
Okay, so the next section of an actionable that you can do to encourage serendipity to help you is to curate, converse and connect. Now, we've got the course within the members area for curation. We're going to encourage you to converse across multiple social media channels, and once you start doing that, you're going to start building the connections between real people and influencers in different social networks. And this whole idea of the semantic web, linking the people that are thinking differently, creating different content, is going to come back and it's going to help you get your business noticed even more.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm going to give everybody our wiki link to the glossary entry Iconoclast and my friend Dr. Burns' book called Iconoclast, and it might help everybody get an idea of like what an iconoclast actually is. It's very entertaining. You guys might be amused, so I'll just drop that in there. Continue, Kev.
That's superb. Cheers, Russell. So the next part of this section is what are citations? So a citation in search is looking at the number of mentions of your website, your brand, your business, your products all across the web, and it looks at them in association with other particular qualities. Now, the descriptions that are used to describe your products and your business, yourself, they can create an association in numerous different ways. It can create associations in people's minds between product A and you or your brand. It can create associations between different social networks and your site. And having these descriptions out there which are going to help you, they're the sort of things that you need to have in place. And you don't necessarily need to put them out there yourself, although you can. So working this webinar out, Sue and I have used a pizzeria as a way of getting a few ideas across to you to help you grasp the importance of having serendipity and citations and how they're going to help you. And in this little example, if you was to own a pizzeria, if you didn't actually put within your copy, we serve the best pizzas in town, but a customer of yours said, I went to Joe's Pizzeria and it was the best pizza in town by far, what is likely to happen within the new Hummingbird algorithm is it's pulling all of these citations and references that other people make about your business, whether it be in reviews or other things, and it's going to start pulling them together. So even though you didn't say it's the best pizza restaurant in town, it may well come up as a fortunate accident that somebody who has said that, it will appear in the SERPs when somebody else is looking for it. Did you want to expand on that, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a long time we've said when you do your local business, you want to make sure that you go out and you create all of your citations. And that doesn't actually change, because what you want to do is, like, usually there's 30 or 40 places in your local area and generically like in Yelp and these sorts of places where you can put your entry and people can come along later and they can add reviews about your business. If you have your citations already in place, then it's easy for them to find your entry in whatever platform they prefer and append their review to that particular platform, and then that review gets credited to your particular business. It's great if you have customers that like you. It's not so great if you have customers that don't like you. So again, this is the whole trust reputation thing going on. But the idea is that you still want to do that, right? You still want to go out there. You still want to put your citations out there everywhere so that as people talk about how fantastic your pizza is, then Google is going to look at that because you've put the citation in, you put in the right address, and you put in the right phone number, and you put, you connect that to you and your business, and so Google goes, oh, hey, wow, that entry in Yelp actually belongs to Just Pizza over here on Center and Main. And then your customer comes along and they say, hey, wow, Joe's Pizza, it was the best pizza. They put it in there in Yelp, and Google goes, oh, hey, wow, best pizza, Joe's Pizza, connect. Okay, so that's, yeah, okay, back to you, Phil.
So with all that, you guys are seeing the importance of having these citations and serendipity working in your favour. So what we've got here are a few actions that you can take now to get these citations working for you. Now, Sue just said, you know, sort of there's places that you can go to put your citations. And a few examples of those are business listings, the directories in and around your town, your area, different business groups, Yelp, and the big international ones. Don't be afraid to register your business in as many different places as you can, because all of this is going to link back and it's going to show Google and other search engines that you really do mean business. Here you are, you're doing the right thing, you're getting in these you know, registries, and they're looking at the growth of these. And as these other companies get on board with the semantic web and they start marking up their entries, you're going to see a benefit from that as Google slurps in their data and starts making these links. Now, the next thing that you can do is to actually encourage your customers to interact with you and engage with you across multiple social media platforms. And ask for the reviews. You know, if you're on a one-to-one basis with a client, you've just done a good job for them, don't be afraid to actually say, hey Joe, you've got a Google profile, can you go and thank me and review me in Google on my Google business page, please? Actually take the time to ask for the referral as you would in a real-world business. The point here is that, you know, business hasn't changed. People, you know, sort of do buy things from you, and just because the web is there, in the real world you'd ask for that referral. Do the same and use that to your advantage on the web. Now, the next action is that serendipity actually accentuates the citation results that you've got. That happy accident, the more citations that are out there, the greater the chance that the information, the feedback that your customers have given for you on the different platforms will come back in the search results and help you get even greater results from other people that are looking for your business or a business like yours providing the service you actually provide. Now, the final action that we've got here at the moment for citations is the customer assessment and how it impacts the results of the citations that you've put out there and others put out there. And in that we've got likes, feedback, etc., etc. So again, within your Facebook profile, the more likes you've got, the more it would stand to reason that other people that see, you know, Fred's got, you know, 2,000 people that like him, that you are a trustworthy person and that they can rely on the information that you've actually put out there to help benefit them. So this all leads to your reputation on the semantic web. So the first thing to really take on board is something that you guys have heard time and time again, but we want to reinforce it now because it's even more important in the semantic future. People buy things from people they know, like, and trust. And the content that you actually put out there is going to help you establish a presence on the web. It's going to help define what it is that you do, and both of these help reinforce your identity and what people know or think they know about you. Now, the more content that you have out there and the more people are talking about you, the bigger your digital footprint is. This will grow exponentially the more you do. And a digital footprint is an indicator of authority within the semantic web. The more people are talking about you, the more quality content that you've got out there that people are liking, the greater your authority will be. The other thing that all of this does is it establishes your credentials as an individual, as a business, to be an authority within the area or the market sector that you are in. And once you've got this authority, people are more likely to take you seriously and look more at the offer that you are giving them. Now, all of these different elements help generate trust. And as you've generated interaction through the different social media platforms, having comment forms on your content, the more new visitors to your site see interaction from other visitors and you answering the questions that people are asking, it's going to build up the trust that a new visitor has for you. And it needn't just be on your site. If you can get that trust element through the other social media platforms by doing all the things that we've said before, you're already 2, 3, maybe 4 steps ahead of your competitor that hasn't picked up on this yet. And the other thing that's going to build and reinforce the trust is to propagate your message by as many means as possible, sending out tweets that are on topic, keeping that content going out there, not just on your blogs and your site, but the other social media platforms, including Google. So now we're actually going to get into the attention economy. Now, we've mentioned Alexander Bard before, and he is a Swedish philosopher and writer, and he's got less hair than me, which is why I like him, and he actually wrote a trilogy of books, the Futrica trilogy, about the internet revolution. And when you read through this book, he suggests that visibility times credibility equals reputation, and we'll cover that as we go on. Now, we've used this word attentionalism before, and what we're going to do now is Sue has rephrased that for us to make it more understandable to attention level. In this big world that we've got, keeping somebody's attention level is all about awareness times your credibility. Now, why this is important to you is that money will follow attention, but it doesn't work the other way round. And the other important factor here is that attention is the only hard currency we've got in this virtual world. Now, did you want to expand on any of these points here, Sue?
Oh, sure, because this brings us right back to being your little iconoclastic self, right? So when I said earlier that by challenging the status quo and by having original thought and by, as somebody said something about it, does curation count? Like, how does curation build trust? And it's like, well, you give your opinion on what somebody else has written, right? And it's your opinion actually that matters. It's your opinion that you put yourself out there every time you give your opinion, and you build trust that way. And by giving your opinion where it matters about what people are concerned about, that's what builds attention. That's what creates this attention. You've got your awareness increases. The more you put yourself out there, the more your awareness is going to increase, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. And the more you put yourself out there, the more credible you become. The more people can see how consistent you are, or conversely, they can see how consistent you aren't. So you want to be careful about that. But if you have, this goes all the way back to ISDNA. If you know what it is you're selling and you know why it is you're selling it, if you've got that why that we talk about firmly rooted, then that permeates everything that you say and do, and you create this incredible consistency throughout your entire marketing campaign. And this lends to the credibility, and people will give you their attention.
Absolutely. Also, Sue, I would like to add, because it keeps coming up in the chat window, content curation, just real quick, exactly what Sue is saying. The key word in curation, just stepping over to the side here for a second into curation, is insight. Okay, insight is part of what I call engagement rank and what Bruce Clay calls engagement rank. When you're providing an insight into something, that's an authority or expertise, which Sue and Kevin are going to go into here shortly. So remember that everything we teach in our curationprofits.com course, it's not about a lot of the things that you see happening out there right now where they're actually just calling republishing curation. True curation is every single object that you put out there has to be given a unique insight based on your authority. If it's not true curation. Just a quick definition for you guys.
Correct.
Superb. Okay, so where you've got that in your head now, the next question that we want to answer for you is how you get that attention in the semantic web and build the credibility that you're going to need. And it starts with trust. And there's some good news here. You've already got it implicitly. People, when they visit your site for the first time, they don't know anything about you. And they're trusting you on site. And the but here is that trust is really easy to lose.
I want to butt in for a second, sorry.
Yeah.
People want to trust. People want to believe. And so that's why you have trust on credit.
That's right.
At the get-go.
Don't get me started. Guys, we are belief engines. We default into the belief position. Trust and accuracy is a whole different topic, and if you lose that, then you lose your entire market in the upcoming semantic web. So remember, it's easy to persuade people. Please see our persuasion architecture course. But it's really difficult to keep them respecting your authority and your expertise over huge number of years. Believe me, we know all about that. Our average lifetime value is 5 years of a customer. So you can make a lot of money up front by using persuasion and false authority and then lose that very quickly. It's a lot more work to create respect and expertise on the current web, but where it's going, which is what Sue and Kevin are showing you, is it's going to be mandatory, not optional, if you want to have any kind of a brand over any significant amount of time.
Excellent. So following on from trust, if you maintain that trust, you can build on the next important element, which is reputation. Now, reputation is everything in some circles. But with reputation, it's easier to get the next element in this circular process that we're showing you right now. And that's authority. So this brings us back to one of the earlier screens within this webinar, the 3 key elements that you'd got. The trust builds on the reputation. With the reputation, you can begin to build authority. Once you've got the authority, the next element comes into play in the semantic web, and that's the visibility. If people see the content that you're putting out there is authoritative, they are more likely to share that amongst their friends and their influencers, and that will give you the visibility within the semantic infrastructure. And with visibility comes awareness of your product, your brand, and you. And that creates a perpetual circle, which in turn leads to greater trust, which in turn leads to a higher reputation, which leads to even more authority, even more visibility, and even more awareness. So doing the baby steps now and getting those baby steps in place and working at a constant place, keeping quality content going out there, building within the social networks, having your friends and everything else is just going to give you the reputation and credibility that you need within the semantic web.
Before I go on to this next deep thought here for a second, I want to also say we're juggling 2 sides of the coin here. We talk about the semantic web on the one hand from a pure perspective, but in reality what we're also looking at today is Google's interpretation of the semantic web. So Google's got a couple of extra layers on top of the semantic web that it's working with, and one of those is the social graph that got turned into, what did they turn into when they bought MetaWeb? To the knowledge graph.
Knowledge graph, yeah.
And so your Google profile is actually contained in the knowledge graph. And what Matt Cutts just said a couple of weeks ago was that they're looking at taking 15% of the author images off of the SERPs.
Yep.
The lower 15%, the less authoritative 15%, in order to make the results of the people that do show as author.
Precisely. And Tony, these are people who had questions to related to your comment. Tony, Vincent, all of you guys who just asked those questions about Google+, Sue's answer right there should be very, very important to you. Knowledge graph used to be called the open knowledge graph. Google promised that they would keep it open and democratized and all that, and then they slammed the door on it because they want to control the data. So just keep in mind that knowledge graph is not, it's a Google-centric database and is not the true semantic web. And so, of course, they're going to make the data high authority with verified names because they have better search results and better find engine results in the semantic web when they control the authenticity of those users. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, Tony, when you're asking me about, okay, if I'm building a personal online broadcasting network and I have 4,000, Google Plus guys, do I assign one to each one of my auto blogs? And these, I mean, there's nothing wrong with these questions, guys, okay? I know it's on your mind. And Tony was just, the one to ask the question. The answer is there's going to be a really extreme diminishing return over the next couple of years on fake Google Plus profiles is what I'm saying, if any.
Yeah.
Don't get Kevin started on this because he'll just start slapping us all over.
I was biting my tongue. That's why there was that pregnant pause. the only thing I'd add to...
Not that far.
No, the only thing that I'd add is that, in my opinion, being real and being you is all...
Oh, I think we lost Kevin.
We certainly did. Okay. We can hold it for a second
Okay,
until
so-
he logs back in.
Yeah. So what he's saying is being real and being you. That's what's important, and that's where everything is going to.
And you guys, also, don't get us started on this. I mean, Sue and I have discovered through the years that hopefully everybody here knows what the lifetime value of a customer is. If you know what LTV is, or lifetime value of the customer, put a 1 in the window while Kevin is re-signing back on. This is what people don't understand. We actually took some numbers for launches, like $1 million launches or whatever, where you make $1 million in 2 days or something like that. Like the product launch formula. And Sue and I did some cross-corollary comparison analysis of what you stand to earn if you can also build your brand rather than just doing a quick and dirty launch, right? Which is really a lot of the internet marketing stuff tends to do that. Not all of them. Some of them build their brand. When you look at the numbers, you stand to earn anywhere from, what is it, Sue, 5 to 12 times amount or more, depending upon your products and services, because you've got something called lifetime value of the customer. The lifetime value of the customer means that they don't only believe, is what we were just talking about, Trish, and because we're belief engines. Everybody can believe for 24 hours or less, which is why the product launch formula works. Does everybody understand that? The product launch formula works is we want to believe. We're belief engines, and you only need 48 hours to prove that. And the reason that the product launch formula doesn't tell you how much the product costs until the last 25 minutes is because you so totally believe that it's much easier for you to make that choice. There's nothing wrong with that, but it would be also really, really good to be able to build the brand over time. And Sue did some numbers for me once with LTV because she built this LTV calculator. Actually, we used it with an associate of ours. And when she started showing me the numbers of LTV, I was looking at greater than $1 million return on investment for LTV on our average LTV of just one product. So I just wanted to express that. And where the heck is Kevin?
I think he's going to have to come out and come back in again.
Oh, okay. Hopefully, does that make sense with the LTVs, you guys? And remember, LTV is one of the most difficult things to formulate because you have to sit back and do the numbers. Sue, how long did we work trying to get our LTV numbers together? It was not easy.
That was several months.
It took us 4 months because, guys, when you know how long the average retention is for one of your customers, and you're making $150 to $250 over the course of 24 months, or if you know it's 18 months, you can purchase money at a discount for every lead that you acquire. and those numbers are pure science. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Yeah, we do have an LTV calculator, Sandra. We give you all that.
So I think.
Oh, by the way, there's one of the largest launch formula, one of the most powerful launch experts I know of is on this call with us. I'm not going to mention his name. He says $1 million launches also count payment plans as fully paid, which is BS. Thank you for that. Really, really great to have you on the call. That is true, right? Because you don't really know how many returns you get.
So at this point, I want to dive in and think about. We've got another couple of quotes from Mr. Bard, and this is some really way out there stuff. As I said earlier, he's talking about a paradigm shift from capitalism to informationalism and the upheaval that that's going to create. And you guys can see my screen at this point, right? Looks a little bit different from Kevin's. Yeah, must be. Okay, good. All right, so there's a couple of fascinating things that happen here. I'll let you read the screen, but then I'll talk while you're reading. And so one of the things that's going on is an upheaval in values, right? So this is going to shift from economic quantitative to attentional qualitative, all right? So think about this for a second. In the economic paradigm, in the capitalist paradigm, we had quantitative. It was all about how much money, how big your house, how big your car, quantitative. And now what this shift is coming to is attentional. It's quality and your attention. Your attention is on the quality. You're looking for the things that are truly meaningful, that are truly salient for whatever it is that's important to you. And so this is kind of a huge shift in terms of having information overload, and in terms of trying to parse through all of the information and find the things that you really want to pay attention to. So, for instance, I'll just give you a couple of examples that pop into my head while I'm thinking about this. I've got 5,432 different things on my Netflix, right? And Netflix attempts to tell me what it is that it thinks is going to be salient to me. And I still have to parse through. I can spend an entire, like if I sit down to eat my meal and I haven't figured out what movie it is I'm going to watch, I can spend the entire movie the entire meal trying to find the movie that I want to watch. Like, it's just frustrating as all get out as to how much information there is out there and how little time I actually have to spend doing the things that I really want to do. So this is part of that shift, and this is part of why I was talking about earlier. You have to go out of your way to be something that somebody wants to pay attention to. It's not just the barrage of ads that people have had thrown at them to the point that they become blind to advertising. Like, this is way, way far beyond that. This is like so much information that even your info marketing stuff has got a tough time getting through. So, are you back, Kevin?
I think I am, yeah.
Excellent.
There he is.
Yes. Awesome. So,
We covered you.
Yes. So let me just see if there was anything else that I wanted to say. That information overload. Oh, and the one thing that can't be bought, like love, is your attention. Your attention in this moment becomes precious. It becomes one of the things that you start to notice that your life is made of, and that once it's gone, you can't get it back.
You can't buy love?
Well, maybe. But you definitely.
Did I say don't get me started? All right, we're not going to go there. Back to the semantic web.
Okay.
Guy Porter, my friend Guy Porter says you can rent it. All right, you guys.
So.
All right, Kevin, you're the presenter again.
Yep. Okay. So as we move on from there, the next question that we've got is, what is credibility? And credibility is the quality of being trusted and believability, which comes from your expertise. Now, credibility is established in a number of ways. Firstly, it's established by what you say. It's established by what you do, and it's also established by who you hang out with. Now, all of these different elements, you know, what you say, how you say it, what you do, how you do it, who you hang out with in which circle, and everything else. It matters for a number of reasons. And Google is looking at all of these relationships that you are building online. So if you are a pizzeria, for example, when you hang out with other pizza owners and your customers, that's fine. But if you are, let's say, a pizzeria, and then you start hanging out with, give me an example of who you could hang out with that's so different from pizzas, airline pilots, for example, and then you started trying to talk about flying a plane, you haven't got the credibility based on all of the things that we've said for Google to take you seriously, or other people. So this leads us into the next area, which we've called death or glory by association. And the web has different levels of association, and where and how you associate with people online has a really big influence on the knowledge graph and all of the other graphs that Google and other search engines are using to work out who you are. Do you have the credibility within your community to be believable? So places like your circles and the interaction that you have with these people now has a big influence on all of the different things that you do. So with the associations that you are making online with customers, influencers in the market and things like that, you're going to have the ability to have joint promotions and causes that are important to you. And other people need to see and feel that everything you're doing is believable and above board. And Google is using the algorithms that it's got within the semantic web to almost do this behind the scenes, so that things that appear in the search are how they would want them, and that the search engine users are finding the useful information that's going to answer the questions they've got from people that have the authority and credibility to answer them. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you look at these ideas, who's in your circles versus your interaction versus your joint promotion and causes, I actually see that as being different levels. For example, when Facebook came out, Facebook actually called the people in your network friends. And I was very hesitant to actually friend somebody that I didn't feel like I knew. It was just this idea of like, that person's not a friend. How can I make them a friend if they're not a friend? Like it begged the very definition of it. I thought it was very interesting what Facebook did, what that caused in my head by calling the people in my network a friend, versus LinkedIn, where they're associates or something along these lines. It's much more business oriented, and it's not nearly as intimate as a friend, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, I can have you in my network in LinkedIn, but I don't know if I want to have you in my network in Facebook, right? And so now you've got this thing in Google called circles, and I think it's really cool because you can label your circles whatever you want. So I've got a circle that's like, I don't know who this person is, and then I've got another circle that's like, these are my closest business associates, and then there's circles in between. And so just by having somebody in your circle or in your network, I don't think is a big deal, because most people add friends willy-nilly, and most people put people in their network in LinkedIn without giving much thought as to how that actually connects people. Although I believe that those connections are going to become more salient as time goes on. You're going to become aware of how those connections actually can be affected and effected.
Yeah, don't get me started.
But
Yeah, so
Hang on, I got a couple of really interesting points I want to make here. So this is kind of like taking the real world and putting this into an electronic format. Like you meet people in the store, you meet people in the hall, you meet people at work, and you don't really interact with them. They're just part of your network. You know, they're in your community. And then there are other people that you actually interact with. You have lunch, you have business meetings, you do stuff with, and you've got that next level of interaction with them. And so these are more like the people that you converse with online, okay? And then you've got a much more intimate level of interaction online where you're actually co-branding with somebody, where you're actually doing a JV with somebody, where you actually appear on static pages and you're actually endorsing each other. And that's a whole other level of interaction. Like that I think gives a whole different meaning to life. And I saw one of the questions come along with was like, can you borrow, what was the word? Can you borrow authority from somebody? And yes, if somebody in a position of authority backs you in that kind of a way, if they actually vouch for you in one way or another, then you're actually piggybacking off of their authority. That actually gives you more authority. And I think you're going to start to see algorithms along those lines come a lot more into play in the near future.
yeah, absolutely. Well, no, I'm just agreeing with you. Like things like Trust Cloud. There's something. If you go to our wiki, themesandglossary.com, and in our search bar, you can type in reputation capital. Strongly recommend. In fact, I'll drop the link to everybody. Those types of things are moving to things like Tom James just expressed here, like friend rank and all this stuff. The big question that I get a lot, in fact, 2 people have dropped it already, Kevin, and I think it's a really, really great question. For those of us, meaning myself, absolutely, who are Renaissance men, you know, where we have more than one topic that we're interested in, is it going to hurt us to be a Renaissance person, or is there a way that we can structurally set up our authority? And I've answered it a couple times in the chat, but I thought that'd be something interesting for you to poke at, Kevin.
Yeah, I can't see that it is going to hurt. Sue and I have discussed this previously on a different element and a different level, but to some extent the semantic web is going to mimic real life, and each of us in our own lives have different interests. We have our work life, we have our personal life. Within our personal life we have elements that we are happy, you know, sort of shout from the roofs about, and there may be other elements that are close to our hearts that we keep close to our hearts. So within the semantic web and moving forward, if you've got interests that are diverse, that's fine to have diverse interests. You know, there has to be that algorithm built in. Where it becomes extreme, nobody's actually going to draw the line. You know, if you've got fake personas and we're looking at, you know, how can you use the technologies that are out there, a real person might have, you know, 5, 10 interests in their life. They wouldn't have 1,000 different interests, and you know, you've just got to look at it logically. And I think that's probably the safest way to look at it. In real life, you're going to have real interests. It's fine to talk about them.
And that makes
going to have thousands.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too, guys, gals. If you look at things in terms of broadcasting, there's only, even though broadcasting is becoming ubiquitous and easy, and the cost of doing so is going to drop to almost nothing over the next couple of years with Hangouts and other things like that, you only have so much time. And so Kevin's exactly right. There's a rational amount of topics and their relationships that you're going to be able to deal with. I mean, for example, you can't work, you know, 200 businesses at once. You know, you might own 200 businesses, but then that would be a different whole markup and different factor in your profiling. So hopefully that makes sense. This is why, you know, a lot of Autoblog and, you know, blog network kind of folks now have automatic profiles and the rest, and that's the precise attack that Google is making in the big play when we're talking Google, not the semantic web, but Google itself, is the attack on unverified names and the Google dashboard, what they call unverified Google dashboards. Hopefully you guys know that google.com/dashboard is tied to your Gmail account, and they've just tied that Gmail account to YouTube, which YouTube is becoming one Google, one login. I find it interesting that they chose YouTube as the primary core hub. when you put google-dashboard.com, google.com/dashboard, that is your entire what they call associative connected app and user control panels and tools under one ID. Their play, what they're dumping millions and billions of dollars with, even it's definitely not the semantic web, it's Google. They're trying to make sure that everybody gets confirmed, that they can nail you down to some kind of tyranny of location via your telephone number. Does everybody understand that? Put a 1 if you get what I'm saying there, because this is really practical. It's a little bit more grounded than just semantic web. I just want you to know what Google's really going for. Okay, and the semantic web is going to, just enforce all of this on a much wider range beyond Google. So I wanted to make sure that you guys know that that's coming. I'm not saying there's no way to game it. I'm just saying what Kevin will constantly tell me is that there's a huge diminishing return on that gaming as time goes on. That's what I'm really trying to get you guys to understand here. Okay, I'm out of it. Let me back out of it. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. And just to sort of expand upon what you've just said there, this is an old chestnut that Sue, I can feel the whips coming out, but over the last couple of days, I've had for my businesses and my personal Google Plus profile, they've sent me the email opportunity to sign up and have Google plus.google.com/Kevin Polly as my brand within Google. And the hoops that we have to go through, it's the first time that I've ever seen Google ask for 3 times,
Correct.
Do I really want to do this?
Yeah, because it's major. You can't change it. In fact, the PageRank 3 that I had on my personal profile immediately went away. But the thing is, but the personal name that you have tied to that as a centralized hub, it's something you really have to think about, folks, if you want to do that, because it is going to, you better have chosen very carefully about who you want to be in terms of that.
Yeah, and what I'd just add to that is read the terms and conditions as well. Some of you may be aware, but front and center in the terms and conditions, Google say it's free now, but they reserve the right to charge for that privilege of having your name, but they'll give you the opportunity to bow out at some point in the future if they decide to charge for it.
Yep.
So if we go on now with reputation, and reputation is drawn from a number of elements. In the semantic web, it's drawn from the social graph, which relates to this reputation element in our circular diagram. They also pull elements from the knowledge graph, and the knowledge graph would relate to the authority element of our circular diagram. They're also pulling elements to decide, are you reputable, from the link graph, all of the different places that you've linked to, your content, where is it all unified? And that refers to our visibility element. And then there's also what we've coined an association graph. We're not absolutely 100% certain what the real name for this is. We've got this really strong sense that it is there, and it's the associations. You can see the graphs on Twitter and things like that. This person is linked to this person, and these are the influences in that community. And that relates to the awareness section of our circular wheel of trust, reputation, authority, visibility, and awareness, and how that perpetuates throughout the whole process. So we're now at the point where we're going to look at some of the plugins that we've been testing over the last month, and we're going to start giving our thumbs up to a couple of them that you guys can start using now within your sites. And the first plugin that we're giving a thumbs up to is the RDFA breadcrumbs. This is a WordPress plugin, and basically you install it like any other WordPress plugin. The only downside that we might see for some of you, is that it requires a manual editing of a couple of theme files. Now, generally this is just the post or pages.php file within your theme. If you've got a custom theme, this may change, the name may be different. But the benefit of this plugin is it gives you an enhanced search engine result profile. And as you can see in this image that I've got there, I've been using it on my blog, and you can see right at the end there, semantic web. That is the breadcrumb. This is the benefit that Google has given me by using this plugin. And depending on the length of your domain, you may find 2 or 3 different breadcrumbs appear within your search engine result when people are looking for you. So you can get this from the plugins repository, and that's /RDFA-breadcrumb. You can search for it by RDFA breadcrumb within the Add New Plugins. It's easy to install. Don't be scared about, sort of making the change of adding, it's one short line of code that you put in where you want this breadcrumb to appear within your theme. Okay, now the next plugin that we're giving our thumbs up to is a plugin called WordLift. Now again, this is a WordPress plugin, and what it does is it checks and annotates your posts content. Now the reason I've put posts there is it doesn't currently analyze your pages, so this is ideal for your supporting articles. What it does is it generates things called entities within your blog, and I'll explain what they are in just a while by showing you it in action and a graphic. For those of you that were on the first webinar, you'll understand the importance of entities within the semantic web. Now, some things to point out about this plugin is it is in beta. Now, that doesn't mean in any way, shape or form that this isn't stable. Why I've put beta there is this is under serious development. It's supported by a company called Redlink that I'm quite happy to say now are going to be a leader in the semantic technology field for this particular searching through content, annotating it so that you can find what you're looking for. And they've been appearing in more and more press releases. Now, I think, Russ, you tried installing this as well, and what happens is you install the plugin and you have to register it, and it requires verification. Again, because it's in beta, it can take an hour or 2 before you get that verification, but once you get it, the benefits to your blog are going to be outstanding. And as you can see there, I've just said that it does require manual checking and acceptance. Now that's not just for your verification. Once you've been verified, what WordLift does is it goes through your post content and it pulls out these entities, and you have to then decide for yourself by looking at a list which of the entities you want to promote on your blog. The only other downside for this at the moment is it's a limit of 50 posts, and that's a current limit. I've been talking with the developers, and there are plans to increase that, and there are plans as well to have different premium levels for those of you that have got more than 50 sites. They're even going to have a level there for those of you that have got hundreds of thousands of pages. You can get this again from WordPress in plugins repository. Just look for WordLift, and here you can see WordLift in action. If I bring my actual blog across,
yeah, that's good. I was going to ask you if we could put you on the spot.
Yeah, not a problem. So let me just expand that, and you can see here what has happened. It has gone through and it has decided that it knows that I was talking about a web page. I've mentioned Google. I've mentioned open link software. I've mentioned etc. As a file hierarchy system. I've mentioned SEO, and I've mentioned Yahoo, all within this article. And what WordLift done was it went through and it gave me a few other options that I could have, sort of annotated my page with. And the other advantage of having this is this bar at the bottom you can turn on or off. Now by default it's on, and the reason it's on is one of Google's rules, in inverted commas, is that you're not allowed to have hidden markup elements, and annotating your document, if you don't do this, it's hidden, and there may be a penalisation by not having that. So what this then does is these elements that are at the bottom, you can then click on them, and what this plugin has done is it's actually created new entities within your blog with content. I haven't had to type this in. This has come direct from the Semantic web, and this is the definition of open link software. And the beauty of this from that perspective is that it's also linking back to the actual article. So it's analysed the content, found out what it knows on the Semantic web, it's created an annotation, it's given me a bar, it's met Google's requirements, and then it links back to the page.
All right, I'm
so
going to pause you because I don't want to lose anybody, because it's pretty huge. There's just a few questions that came through. So
okay.
What you're telling us is that you installed a plugin, you ran it, and it marked up certain elements on your blog, creating more verified entities, which is actually more verified content, making your blog better, and also making it Semantic web worthy?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Sandra, does that make sense to you? Because you're the one asking a lot of really cool questions about that. Does that make sense, Sandra, that checks and annotates your post's content? That's what he means? Okay, Marvin's lost. Okay, Marvin, get really specifically, ask a question about what it is. The Semantic web, does everybody understand why the Semantic web, it's worth having entities on your content or blog marked up for the Semantic web? If you understand why it's important, please give us a 1. If you do not, give us a 2, and don't be shy. It's okay, because Kevin will disambiguate this.
So let me back up and give a few definitions for guys. I know it's been a long time since a month ago when we had our first webinar. An entity is a thing that's defined in the Semantic web. So let's say you take an idea like coffee cup. So coffee cup is a thing, and in the Semantic web, the term coffee cup can be defined, and it can be defined in terms of having a relationship to another thing, such as coffee. So coffee, I put in a coffee cup. So coffee is actually the thing that's defined. It's defined by going into the coffee cup, and the relationship is that one goes inside the other. Okay? So if Kevin then has coffee on his website, it'll go, hey, wow, I know what coffee is. It's over here in this ontology, and I can go and I can get the standard definition for what coffee is, and I can bring it back and I can put it on your website.
Sue, people are really having a hard time with the word markup. I've got over 4 people saying they're lost on markup.
Markup is like HTML, is hypertext markup language.
I can actually show them here, so.
Excellent. So markup is just, go ahead. Do you have it there? It just looks like text to me.
I've actually got it here. Okay, so if I actually go into the text element, you're all familiar, I hope, with WordPress. If I flick between the visual that you see, you can see here if I hover over that what WordLift has done, it's pulled out different elements for me. It knows who Barack Hussein Obama is. It knows where Harvard Law School is. It knows the United States. It knows the House of Representatives. And when you look in the text element, you can see here, if I look at this element here, I know it's scary, but the whole point of this is this has done this in the background for you guys.
Absolutely. And Kevin, hang on a second, because we have a lot of light bulbs going on, and I can probably help that a little bit. And David, if you have any suggestions, I'm watching for your comments as well, because you're good at this. Okay, so it is a tag, yes, David. And the main thing that I want everybody here to understand is that when Kevin shows you that it knows, when he says it knows, that's a little abstract. What he means is that it's been archived in an official database. Kevin, please correct me and expand on me if I'm wrong.
Right, you're doing fine.
Okay, that means it's part of a web that is actually beyond even Google. Does everybody understand that?
A web of known facts.
It's
I
a
think
web
would
of
be the
known
easiest.
facts that have been officially accepted by, correct me if I'm wrong, W3C and others. Is that correct? I know it's more politically complicated.
Yeah, W3C and others.
Okay.
There are lots of universities, organizations.
Yeah, and that's the
that
thing.
have-
Hey, most of you guys on this call are really Google-centric. You've come from hardcore Google slavery. We need you to understand there's a whole web outside of Google. I know it's hard to believe, but there really is. Like, I went to Best Buy last night, and the new Google laptops were there. The guy told me that people return the Google laptops because they're caught in the Googleverse. They can't go anywhere, right? My point is that Google is not the end-all and be-all of the semantic web. Okay, there's a whole nother, when you get another computer, you're outside of Google's platforms, right? So what I'm saying is that there are databases that expand beyond. They're part of universities, official databases. You can visit our site on this. We talk about these databases. So when he's marking these up, these official facts are enhancing your content. And when Google, among many, many other search engines, comes through and determines that, they're like, oh, this guy is stating fact. This content is like 1,000 times more powerful than just whatever I decide to embed in my WYSIWYG on my blog. Make sense, guys?
Okay. Now, Raz has got a very important question there. Slip through. Where this plugin is creating new content on my site, is that a bad thing? The answer to that is no, because you will have created content in this post, and what WordLift has done is it has looked at all of the words on your post, and then it has done something, sort of disambiguated the content. Now, all that means is it's looked for the things that it knows in its fact base, and then it's highlighted them so that even Google can understand exactly what your content is about, and that's important. While it might not know, Google might not know what all of the other words are, by seeing, Obama, Harvard Law, United States, House of Representatives, it's already being able to understand that this is something relating to the United States.
Hey, Kevin, great questions. Great questions from people. Was that selected automatically by that plugin, what was marked up? And the other question is,
absolutely.
Does it turn it into posts, or does it turn it into pages, or what?
Okay, what it does is it marks up, annotates the element within the post, and then it creates this bar at the bottom of your post, and it creates an entity, a separate segment, a separate fact within your site related solely to that fact that it has found out about it, and it links it to the original post.
Okay.
There's nothing underhand about this at all.
Good.
Any more questions?
So, would you guys give me a 1 if you understand what we're talking about at this point?
And it doesn't have
still a little fuzzy.
It doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Just a general understanding, because we promised the upcoming event and course we have is really going to roll up your sleeves, get into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we have a
general
understanding.
Yeah. So as you can see on this list on the right of the page, now this is a test post and it's on my Semantic blog, so I'm not actually going to sort of go through and publish this so that you can see it. And the important thing here is that if you're take the silo structures that we keep sort of reinforcing in you guys, is what will happen is this plugin will find what it knows, and if I were to suddenly sort of make this live, because it's all about Obama, John McCain, Harvard Law, the United States, Hawaii, etc., that would not be related to the semantic content that I've got. So this is just for example for this demonstration, and if I hover over this, once it's gone and done its thing, you then have the ability to choose which options you want to annotate and have appear in the bar at the bottom of your page. So do I want to just call Harvard Harvard, or do I want to have an annotated element called Harvard Law School? So if I click on Harvard Law School, if I now come back to its tasks, I'll leave this page, it should remember it. The next element is the tasks that have run have been completed. It's awaiting me to click and choose which elements I want to appear at the bottom, and then you can see here the completed tasks where I've clicked on things. It knows what I've done. So you can have your content being looked at by this plugin and then move on to a different post, and it will run in the background waiting for you. Now, what could happen is that it can take up to 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, it's like we lost them again. And you guys, it does, can you hear me, Sue?
Yeah, I can.
All right, it does take quite a bit of time, Michael. It does take quite a bit of time for it to go through your site, so you're going to have to be a little patient with this particular plugin.
All right, let me just ping him and let him know that we can't hear him anymore.
Yeah, so CC asks, word lift entity selection is akin to insight. Well, I can see why you made that jump because I spoke of as insight in terms of curation. But actually, selecting the markups of the things that you find are meta or worth defining is more like really defining your terms, almost like scientific insight. Yeah, I guess you could call it insight, but it's not insight in the same sense of an expert, who takes an article and then says, okay, I read this article, here's what I think about it, here's my expert opinion, here's my contrarian view, or here's why I agree or disagree. It's an entirely different thing, CC, than that. I know it's a little hard to get your head around because the semantic web is really about marking up entities that are in the semantic database that Google, along with many, many other search engines and major authority domains, are going to give more credibility because they have been confirmed through a database of factual triangulation. I know it's a little weird, but you guys will start to become this will become second nature to you once you see how these functions are used and why. The best way to get it is to understand why a search engine would want to have semantic databases as a tool to make their data better. Does that make sense? It's yeah, right, Mike. It's factual triangulation because it just, a database doesn't really. Ultimately, what this has to do is compression. If Google is running all these bots and these spiders, and they have to, they're running huge, terabytes upon terabytes of RAM that they have to run to parse all your pages, the billions of trillions of pages on the web. If you have this compression like an internet underneath all that with confirmed facts, what's relevant to the masses is going to be a lot more easier to ascertain. So there's less work.
It disambiguates the content on your web page.
Correct.
So in other words, right now what Google does is it uses latent semantic analysis to attempt to understand what your page is about. And that's a very inefficient way to determine what
so
your page is
inefficient.
About. It takes a lot of computing power, and it's just, there are limits to it. And so if it can be marked up and completely disambiguated as to exactly what the predominant keywords, what the salient keywords in your page are actually talking about, then a bot can look at that page and immediately understand what's important about it, what this is about, what other things it can link to provide additional insight to that page, and all of a sudden knowledge just goes quantum. And it's not just knowledge that goes quantum, but related knowledge goes quantum, so that this page can link to this page, can link to that.
Thank you, Sue.
You becomes coherent.
Sue, you have always been pointing that out since 2005, the inefficiency and compression of bots. And if everybody here on the call understands, if you were Google, let's pretend you're Google for 30 seconds. If you were Google, do you understand? Give me a one if you understand why it would be costing you a lot less money to draw on pre-existing facts that have been globally determined as facts to decide that a page could be better. Ooh, wow, everybody got it, Kevin.
That's superb.
Everybody got it, because that is huge. So that little twist that we just got there, and David, don't let me forget this for our conversation next week. That little twist that we got right there is really helpful then, because I know that works. Thank you, guys. Kevin?
All right.
Brilliant. So the last of the plugins that we're going to cover here is Semantic Radar. Now, this isn't a WordPress plugin, this is a Firefox browser plugin. And what this plugin does is it identifies sites that use some of the semantic languages like RDFA and SIOP to you. Now, what these languages are, you don't really need to understand. They're just another markup. The whole point, as we said in the first webinar, is that to some extent, the semantic web, you shouldn't understand, you shouldn't need to get bogged down with this. It's about machine learning and machine understanding. But the important thing about this plugin is, why is it useful? And it's useful because it gives you the ability to see if your competitors are using some of the language markups that are out there already. And you can get this from Hummzilla.org in the add-on section. Just search for Semantic Radar. And here's an example that I took the other day. And you can see, I've blown this section up, that the BBC use RDFA and RDF, and that's what these two symbols mean. And the BBC are using all of this markup and semantic technology to make it easier for their readers and users to find and interact with the content that's out there. And that's exactly what you need to be doing with your content. Make it easy to find and easy for your users to interact with you. And that's why this particular plugin is so useful. There's not a lot more that I can say about it. You know, it might be a little bit gimmicky and things like that, but it's interesting to me, having been watching this growth in the semantic web over the last however many years it is, to see more and more sites using RDFA and RDF to mark up content. So the next section of this presentation that we want to get over is, we know that you guys really want to start using this because there are some benefits, and you can. And what we just want to get across to you is that you can use this stuff now, but you don't need to go overboard. And some of the reasons for that are the WordPress plugins that are out there are very early betas. Even the word lift that I showed you, the reason we're recommending that is the team are ongoing with their development. They're actively looking for users like us to use it and feed back anything that you find and any improvements that you want. But unfortunately, some of the other plugins that are out there, they're just not up to that standard. This whole sort of semantic feel is still in its early stages. The ball is only just starting to roll, and you're in a very early stage. You know, most of your competition haven't got a clue about any of the stuff that we've told you over the last 2 webinars. Now, another thing that really stands out in our mind, why you've got time on your side, you can implement the plugins that we're happy with and, you know, sort of follow what we're doing and keep you abreast, is the real need for the semantic web is still being defined by businesses like you, big business, and other corporations.
Right, it's not a static thing, guys.
No, it's definitely not static. It's growing exponentially, and you know, to get in, dip your toe in the water, use it, see some early benefits are great. But once this understanding of what the semantic web permeates beyond our webinars, and you know, sort of it becomes even more commonplace next year, you know, you're going to have a year, 6 months, 8 months, a year ahead of all of your competition. And you can start looking at what you want this technology to do for you. And other people are already doing that. Now, I've already mentioned that there are some really serious bugs out there in some of these plugins. We're going to make an absolute recommendation at this point for all of you guys and girls out there. We know that you've got blogs. Some of them are already money sites, and some of them you're just testing. But what we're going to suggest now is that you all set up a dev site or a test site on the same server as you're hosting, and that when you start playing with new semantic technologies or making any changes, Do it in a test site. Do it in that development area so that there is no impact to your real money site. You can have your live site, test it in the dev site. If you're happy with the results, then just replicate the process on your live site, and that's the easiest way to get yourself moving forward and try new things in this brave new world. Now, we've told you folks in the last webinar that we've got ongoing development, and it's not just our silo plugins. There's other plugins that are in development at the moment. Now, we're not going to go too much into what those are, and we're also looking at themes. A lot of the markup that you need for schema.org to see the benefits of that, you can't do simply with a plugin. You need to have that into a theme, a bit like the RDFA plugin. So we're also looking at putting a theme together for you that's going to make life just that little bit easier for you. So you've still got time on your side, and we coined a phrase in the last webinar, glowing beacons of spam. And the reason for that is the impact of getting it wrong can be devastating to you in the semantic web. Everything that we've sort of gone over in the, sort of this webinar, that circle of having trust, authority, etc., marking up your site in the wrong way, it's just going to literally say to Google and others, look, here I am. That's the whole point of marking up and having entities. Here I am. This is what I'm doing.
Here.
Yeah, come and get me.
De-index me.
Matt Cutts made a statement in one of his videos that they're actually they are anticipating the guys who are like less than scrupulous will tend to jump on this bandwagon and abuse it, and so they're actually looking for abusers in the early part of this phase.
So they're going to be hyperactive, looking for overuse.
Yeah.
Or just blatant abuse.
Yeah, but I think it's important because here are the questions coming up. Here they all are.
Yep.
All right, what is abuse, Kevin? I know you were going there. So what? Can I install this plugin on my 5,000 networks and get them all de-indexed?
If you'd like to get them de-indexed, please go ahead.
So, explain why that's dangerous. Because we are talking about plugins here. I don't want people running out and using them if there's something that because people tend to actually do stuff that we recommend. So what should they not do?
So do you remember a couple slides back where we talked about, these are the things that you can do. You can start by creating your Google account, making sure that your Google profile has got a picture and that it's registering your business and that you're linking your website to it.
Yeah.
So that website that you're linking, if you put your semantic plugins on that site, that's not going to stick out like a sore thumb.
So do you think one of the spam patterns that they're looking for with semantic web will be confirmed identity tied to markup?
Yes.
Oh,
For example,
I just had a light bulb go off. Gotcha.
If we take your AutoGen blog that's got over 250,000 pages on it and growing exponentially every day,
wow.
and we threw some kind of
What?
plug-in on that might
you mean I don't have a confirmed identity with that?
That wouldn't be a glowing beacon. That would be a halogen lamp.
that would be a nuclear smoke.
The sort of things that you can do now that are safe, and this is the next plugin that I'm looking at to find for you, is a plugin that's going to mark up your business address, who you are, where you are, and simple things about your business. You only need to do it once on each blog. And they're the sort of things that, going back to the beginning of this webinar, proving that you are you. This is my business, this is where I am, this is my phone number, this is my email address. Those kind of things are not going to hurt you. They're expected. What is abuse? Well, abuse is if you sort of have 250,000 pages and they're all saying the same sort of thing, and you suddenly mark up the same thing 250,000 times. That's not going to be a beacon. That is going to be 4,000 to 5,000 watt halogen lamp saying wrong. So I think, again, going back to the common sense point of view, take the common sense point of view. If you think it's wrong, it probably is. If you think it's right and justifiable, try it. You know, if you've got issues or questions, we'd like to see them in the help desk, you know, and then we can sort of create something for you that answers those kind of questions. It's really hard to say what is abuse. Most of you already know that what I want to do is going to be abusive to the semantic web. You know, in this element here, one thing we're definitely saying is do it small on your money site. Do not start doing this on the outer rings, okay? Using semantic markup on, you know, outside rings, I personally don't think it's going to help you at this stage. You know, as we said in the screen before this one, the technology is still being developed. So caution is a good thing. Getting the basics marked up is only going to help you. So the other thing that we want to bring up here, and why you have time on your sides, and again this comes back to something that Matt Cutts said in PubCon, is they are trying to eliminate thin content. And I think it was John Mueller in one of his Hangouts that said anything less than 400 words was considered thin content. So you've got time on your side. You know, Sue and I sort of came up with the analogy during the week that if you've got a site with 500 pages and you've got 100 pages in each silo, for example, those 100 pages might be saying 3 or 4 key points over and over again. If you take the key points and maybe thin the pages out by, pick a number, 75%, but put all of the good content into solid pages, that in the semantic web is going to be better for you because you're going to get that serendipity working in your favour. Having so many pages, the web has changed. You know, it's not all about keywords now. It's about answering questions. And if I owned Google, I'd rather present to my visitors a page that had 500 to 1,000 words but answered 10 or 15 important questions rather than push it to one site that just answered a little bit of it and it was padded with keywords.
Yeah,
so
we got a couple of tricks that we're going to go over in the course about how you can take those thin pages and you can run them together, and you won't actually lose. It won't, like, most of the time the reason you have so many pages is to get that authority effect, right? And we're going to show you how you can keep that authority effect with fewer pages.
Yep, definitely. Now, again, the other thing that, another reason that you've got time on your side is Google are looking to remove lesser authors. Again, this was something that came out in PubCon. I think the percentage that was mentioned was 10 to 20%. So getting the markup out there and being too excessive with it, you are running the risk of Google looking at you, then analysing your content and deciding, does this person have the authority to have the markup? Do we want this person to be talking about this thing? So you've got time on your side. You can mark up. You can build up your authority and your credibility from now. You know, baby steps. You know, once you've started crawling, then you can stand up, then you can start walking, then you can start running. That's all going to help you. So, you know, you've got time on your side. We just want to reinforce that. The other reason for this is that there is so much development ongoing within the semantic web that even we are going to have trouble keeping up with all of the new toys and tools that are being developed. And you know, sort of, I'm absolutely upset that I can't keep up with everything. And I think Sue's more upset than me.
More coffee, it's the only answer.
Yeah, less sleep, that's it. 48 hours in a day in our time slip machine. The semantic web is just coming to the fore. Although it's been in development for a number of years, it's only now that Google has said we're using Hummingbird that it's becoming commonplace to everybody. And it's interesting if you think that Google had implemented Hummingbird a number of months before they even said, here it is. So there's ongoing development, things are going to change, there's going to be new technologies, new apps, new plugins, new ways of using it that are going to come out over the next 6 to 8 months. Now, currently there is some impact on the search engine rankings. Having the right markup for products definitely does enhance your search engine listing for that product. Having for local businesses your markup for this is our address, this is our locality, this is the country, they are going to help you improve your visibility within the search engine results for local rankings. We can see that happening now. And the important thing here is that I saw early on after the last webinar a lot of people sort of worrying that the semantic web was just going to benefit big business that have got big money. That isn't the case, folks. The semantic web is an equalizer. It levels the playing field for everyone. Okay. The reason for that is it's harder to gain the search engine results. And that means that you can focus more on your business, focus on solving the problems that your clients have got, put the quality content out there. If we go back to the example of the pizzeria, you know, sort of, hey, I just sell pizzas, what do I do? Well, do you have the best flour that's out there? Do you get your flour from the best, you know, sort of provider in the US? Are you using pure water? Is your dough lighter than anything else? Have you got the best ingredients? Is it cooked in some kind of stone oven? All of these different things that make you unique gives you a unique voice on the semantic web and a more interesting reason for your visitors to want to come to your site and then come to your pizzeria and try your pizza. Okay, so it's an equalizer. Now, I've just gone over some of the new advances that you know, ongoing, and just to reinforce that the semantic technologies that are out there are essentially new. They've come from academic backgrounds, they're in research and development, they've got the ABC in place, and now it's being rolled out ready for commercial implementation. And it could be 2 or 3 months, maybe a bit longer, for some of these technologies to actually make it to the point where they're viable for smaller businesses, and there is a plug-in for them. Certainly at this point, big business does have an advantage because the semantic technologies are being used by UPS and Amazon and things like that with big data to take all this data in and improve their efficiencies. So, you know, if you're a big business, let us know in the help desk and we'll see what we can find to help you. But at the moment, for most of us here, you know, sort of, we've got that time, the technologies are being developed, and they're not just for the web. Now, the other thing to consider is that just like we have become aware of Hummingbird, thanks to Google talking about it, semantic and big data is just being understood by business, big business and governments. Now, in the UK, open data is a big thing, as it is in the US. And Sir Tim Berners-Lee has really been pushing the open link data for governments to open up their data on who the suppliers are, how much they're spending, and this technology is meant to give us, as you know, the populace, greater improvements in efficiency and things like that. So where it's only being now understood, you could almost look at it as if you're getting more information than big businesses. This level of information that we're giving to you now. I was talking to someone earlier on today, funny enough. They run a big local business. They have heard of it, And he asked me, would I go and talk to his business? And you can bet that I gave him a big price tag, because I appreciate, and I hope you do as well, that just knowing about this stuff at the moment, it gives you a severe advantage, a massive advantage over just about everyone.
That's what I'd like to add here, Kevin, based on a few responses coming through. I'd like to interject to support what you just said, Tricia, and a few other folks, Sandra. The cool thing here, let me just be really clear on what it is that we're doing here, what Sue and Kevin are trying to assist you with. As you know, theme zooming is generally anywhere from 3 to 5 years ahead, right? Okay, so, Tricia has asked, what about just trying to rank a site or a customer, okay? We're not suggesting that your SEO practices, your local practices, all the things, of course, that are in play now are in play. Okay, what we're really trying to make sure that you understand is that the search engine results page, as you know it, the very foundation of the place that has everyone's attention, especially the SEO industry, ultimately will go away. It's not a question of if it's going to go away. Okay, I mean, SEO means nothing without the first 10 search engine results, right? When I say go away, I mean it's very possible, Tricia and everyone else, that every human being on earth could have a different semantic fingerprint based on their interests and associations, previous searches, and questions. Give me a 1 if everybody here understands that that might be a ways out. We don't know, but it's coming. Okay.
It's certainly looking that way even now, Russell.
Yeah, so now what we could have done is we could have ignored this fact and not told you that, right? But this is why we're having a closed webinar. Now, how far away that is, Kevin is going to get more into that. The bottom line is that what I love about this is that you guys will already be positioned in the know with all of your SEO skills, but with your semantic optimization skills starting to be built. So you're expanding your horizons. This is continuing education. The ostrich effect doesn't really work for this stuff, does it, Sue?
Not at all.
Because when Sue wakes up in the morning and calls me at 4 a.m. and says, okay, I have a technology matrix that you need to understand fully because I have checked it out. I mean, she researches stuff really, really well. Kevin did the same thing. So it was important for us to then say, okay, well, what do we do about it? How do we boil the frog slowly? How do we get your knowledge over the next several months to a place where, semantic web optimization starts to be a natural, something that you're already kind of building your own personal authority with as an expert if you're an agent, or if you've got your own sites, that you're starting to at least think about using it, and so that you're not out there on the web reading some article where someone says install this plugin and then you blow yourself up. Because I tell you what, it's going to be really easy to do that. That's why Kevin and Sue are making so clear to go. I mean, literally what you don't know is the 2 plugins that Kevin has shown you today, or at least the Mozilla browser, that's after about 20 or 30 other pieces of crap that will blow your site up.
Yep.
Does that make sense to you guys? Give me 1 if you understand how much work we've done to make sure that you don't destroy yourself. Okay, we got a 1. Okay, great. And I'm not being self-congratulatory here, guys. I just want you to know that we really, really do care about your business. We also want you to understand where things are going. We run the risk, of course, of confusing, but that's why we had a separate group. That's why we've created a separate group for the semantic web. The people on this call, and Sue mentioned this yesterday, you guys are seriously cutting edge. This is not a normal webinar, okay? The folks that are on this call, you guys, I recognize many of you, you've always been several years, if not more, ahead of the curve. So that's great stuff, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you for, I mean, you'll hear us talking about the semantic web, but we are going to keep it behind closed doors, more or less, in the new semantic course coming up. Kevin?
Yeah. Yep, no, that's fine. And I just see a question from Trish there. It'd be good to know the stuff that would blow up. We've covered that, Trish, by saying to set up your dev environment, a test site, if you want to play. What I personally found was a plugin that I thought was good and I was about to recommend. When I implemented another plugin, that's when things got really hairy for me, and it wasn't just a case of undo the plugin and uninstall it. I had to flatten the blog and start again.
Yeah,
okay.
That's our definition of blowing up, is like needing to reinstall your blog.
Yeah. So I would stick with the ones that we've recommended for now. I mean, Kevin has really been through an hellacious number of plugins, and these are really the only ones that are remotely stable.
And I won't get
So,
excited about the theme that you talk about, Sue. I'm not going to get excited or mention it.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you do, don't get excited about that. Not yet. So we're at a point now where we've been getting some really great feedback from all of you, and now we've got some big questions for you that we'd like your feedback on. So the first of these questions is, ignoring making money as the answer, why do all or some or most of you feel the need to try and game Google? So what we'll do is I'll keep that question there, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to type away and get your answers in there. And I'll ask the question again, ignoring making money as the answer, why do you all feel the need, want to try and game Google?
Yeah, I'll just go into a little bit of background of this question. There's been some of our associates that we've talked to where, you know, I'm on Skype and I'm actually carrying on a verbal conversation with these guys, and they're like hounding me on how they can game the semantic web, and I'm like, just forget about it. Like, just forget about it.
You don't need to. It's there to help you.
How can I game it? What can I do? Like, how can I? So that's the impetus behind this question.
That's brilliant. And there's some wicked answers coming in there.
There's some
Thanks.
great answers.
All for them. So we're not actually going to read them out, and the reason for that will become apparent during the week. So I'm going to ask the next question now. How many of you are using longer search queries since Google announced Hummingbird? Okay, so
have you guys actually tried it? Have you gotten stuck?
Oh, interesting. Some of you are.
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you always used long questions in the search engines?
Yeah, give us a 3 if you've always used long questions.
Okay. Always have, some of you. Okay. Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So the follow-on from those of you with the 3s would be, can you give us a 4 if you're seeing better results with the same longer search queries?
All right. Several people saying yes.
Okay. Interesting.
That's a pretty diverse response, just so you guys know. The responses are pretty, some of you don't even know if it's been better results or not. Some of you have seen no better results. I'd say it's about equal on all of the answers.
Okay. No, excellent. So the next question we've got, how many of you accept strangers, people you don't know, as friends within your Facebook or add them to your network in LinkedIn? Okay. So if we can get yeses, ones, whatever it is, how many of you accept strangers as friends in Facebook or add them to your network in LinkedIn? And no's and zeros if you don't.
So the vast majority are yeses. There's a handful of no's. I would say maybe 20%. Yeah, there's a few more no's coming in now.
Yeah.
So maybe
Used to, but no more. Yeah, okay.
All right.
That's brilliant. Thanks for those folks. And this one is for all of you. What do you want a semantic plugin to do? And this can be for either you or your business. What do you want a semantic plugin to do? Okay, perhaps I should have put that ignore making money there as well.
We've got several everything.
I think it's kind of a difficult. I think it's kind of a difficult step to say ignoring making money. I mean, like as
Bring
I mean
me
the whole.
coffee, but I'm looking for a plugin that does that too, Sandra.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that it's all. I mean, most of you on this call know. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit difficult to say things like ignore making money, because the bottom line is how can you reassociate. How can you make money? We talked about LTV, Kevin, why you were actually out for a minute.
Yeah.
And if everything that we've said is true on the call today, and you guys understood the lifetime value of the customer based on expertise and based on long-term value rather than short-term gains, say maybe a product launch without any follow-up or a company that has believability for the first 24 hours but does not have expertise or trust for the next 24 years. If you guys understand that, you probably could understand why the semantic web is a good way to go, because you're creating a credible web of authority and facts that reinforce your unique position. Give me a 1 if you understood what I just said. I think it's the key to how the semantic web makes you millions of dollars over the next 5 years. Do you guys understand that? Excellent. Okay, so I think we nailed it. So that way we don't really have to say ignoring making money, because it just doesn't make sense to ignore making money to me.
No, but there's a lot of different ways in which the semantic web could assist you in making money.
Absolutely. That's my point.
There's a lot of different avenues that it can help your commerce.
So when you ask me what I would want in a plugin, honestly, can I throw myself in front of the bus here?
Sure.
Yeah.
I want the plugin to make it as easy as possible for me to state known facts that within the context of my already decent to marginally decent content that make me look like I'm a good bibliography and fact stater, and then gives me more trust and reputation and authority.
You didn't want a lot then.
Okay, well, but I don't know, you guys. I'm just being honest. I threw myself in front of the guys.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's brilliant.
I don't know enough to give you a better answer. I mean, I'm just like everybody else in this call. I'm just saying that you're telling me, how would I?
I'll tell you what I want out of it.
Oh, okay. I'm getting out of the way. I'm getting back on the curb, man. Back on the curb.
One of the things that I'm looking for is I want to be able to have a large e-commerce site, and I don't want to have to update my product descriptions every time something changes. I don't want to have to go in and annotate every single product. I want a plugin that's intelligent. It knows about my products. The semantic web knows about my products, and it can just do everything for me. All I got to do is put in my prices, and I'm in business.
But doesn't that make your products a known fact then when you mark it up?
Yes.
Yeah.
So products can become facts. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that was not excluded from what I said. So if I have a database, we looked at some things like Algebraize and everything else that does that on a huge scale. If I have a major commerce application, what you're telling me is that I should be able to have a plugin or something that turns everything that I'm selling, whether it's 1 or 1,000 products, into a known fact, and that's going to put me as more of an authority than competition who does not have those products marked up as facts?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And what we'll do is we're going to cover this in sort of the end of the webinar. This will be one of the things that we cover within the course, because there are, to one degree or another, tools that are out there that will help you do that to some extent or another already.
Yeah.
Here's another thing I want to toss out there that blew my mind, you guys. And I just wanted to answer Audrey. No, Audrey, it's not just for commodities. Pretty much anything could be turned into a entity, not just commodities. But Sue is really saying, because that's where the money is. Money's in the commerce.
Yes.
One thing that really blew my mind, Sue set me straight on in the middle of the night a couple weeks ago. Boy, this is hard. I'm going to go ahead and go for this because it was the most exciting thing for me. You're talking about spun content. Does everybody know the difference between spun content and remixed content? Put a 1 if you know the difference between spun content and remixed content. Okay. Some of you do not. Spun content is when you take things like Spin Rewriter or Spin FM or all these different, or Spin Monkey, all these different things out there, and they take the text and they change the words and try to toss in synonymic things, and they do their very best to pretend to look human, sort of kind of gibberish Markov generator-ish. Does everybody understand that? Okay, and the idea is that because you're providing unique gibberish construct or pseudo-human or partially spun, you have more unique content, and then the theory is you rank higher, and I know that, in some cases you do. All right, remixed content is not that. Remixed content is pulling multiple sources, and it's not even curation. It's taking data from multiple sources and compiling a reference-based framework. This is what you call remix. It's also what used to be called aggregation. You guys know? Okay.
Yep.
And if you aggregate similar entities, streams, databases that are kind of similar and recapitulate them in a unique way that provides, maybe you take the Census Bureau data for every city in the United States, and then you associate it with where the Pizza Huts are located in the frame that's right next to it, okay? And then all of a sudden you have a website called pizzahuts.aroundtheus.com. Does everyone understand that silly concept? Hey, I'm just giving you a basic idea, right? If the databases exist, then you could reformulate content. That's not curated content. That's not remixed content because you're not, sorry, it is remixed content. It's not content spinning because you're not taking that data and trying to make the content unique with the words and sort of failing. You guys get that, right? Well, here's the thing. Remixed content and using database sources that have been approved and or exist within the semantic web or elsewhere is a far superior way to auto-generate powerful and useful websites in the future. Everybody give me a 1 if you understand why that would be true in the semantic web rather than remixing content. Ooh, they get it.
Excellent.
That's really, really cool. So you guys, major light bulbs, wow. So you guys understand why we don't speak that positively about content spinning. And we do that, and we don't speak out about it publicly so much. I'm speaking for myself, not Sue. But, guys, where we're going is that content spinning, better do all their product launches now. That's all we have to say about it. Because, okay, Sandra, great question. Is this remixing or aggregating? Well, remixing and aggregating is very, very similar. So if I put up a website and I go to the Census Bureau database and I take all the city's population of women in that city, which you can get freely from the Census Bureau database, okay? You might have to pay a small fee from that database. And I populate an HTML page with thousands of pages for every city in the United States. And on that, I also put the data that I get from Pizza Hut with their marked up database of all the Pizza Hut locations, which they give away freely. I put them side by side. I'm effectively creating a site called Pizza Hut's locations in every city.com, right? That is essentially an aggregation site. Okay. However, if I start adding, it could be called remix. If I start adding comments on that site about who liked and didn't like, if I take reviews and start pulling reviews about each one of those Pizza Huts in every city around the world, also in a free database, that's remix. I've taken content and put different kinds of sources about those Pizza Huts and about those cities, and I've remixed them. They're still relevant, and they still create serendipity. I think the key word is serendipity. Remix is really about serendipitous data being shared that's related. It's not curation, Jamal. Okay, Jamal. It's not. Curation means I would have to provide an insight for each one of those cities. This is a 100% automated site. Okay? So if you look at my friend Frank Giaffe's site at appleinvestornews.com, this is a client that Sue and I worked with for quite a bit of time. Okay, he's a good friend of mine for many, many years. That site is 100% automated, but it's really essentially a remix site. You guys understand that? A curation site would require that an expert comments on each type of content or post. Curation is all about hand picking, like scoopit.com, where every article I do, I got to, oh my goodness, I've got to drag it here and drop it here. So I'm trying to give you the inside scoop here on the possibilities of creating very, very powerful databases and even unique sites that provide amazing and useful content, even though they're automated, but because they've remixed it in a unique way, they're actually way superior than content spinning. Everybody give me a 1 if you understand and a 2 if you do not.
Let me rephrase what you just said a little bit, because I think what you're trying to say is in curation, the added value comes from the perspective
of the individual,
curating the document.
Of the individual.
And with remixed content, the value is being added by the way the content is remixed.
By the context.
So in other words,
correct.
You're bringing pieces of data together, and the way that you bring those pieces of data together provide a meaning and therefore a value
correct.
That wasn't there before.
Thank you, Sue. So guys, content curation is about individualized authority providing insight. Remix is about the context itself, whether it's automated or not, providing the insight. Give me a 1 if you understood that. There we go. Okay, we have some people getting it. All right, so the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to break you out of your cage in terms of where things could go and what's possible. When you begin to learn the markup stuff that Sue and Kevin are going to be showing you, when you begin to understand semantic databases, and I'm just now beginning to understand it, Sue's been working with it for years. Kevin, our developer of Kraken, was using Census Bureau data to create very useful remix sites as early as 2004. And what's really amazing is that an SEO perspective that's not thinking in terms of official data or facts, it's going to be really hard to move into the future because Google is going to be recognizing you don't have a database when you're just spinning content, you see. and databases are where the facts lay. So I just wanted to add that.
That's brilliant.
Okay, good.
So we're at this point now in the webinar where it is a Q&A, and we've already started this answering some of the questions that are there. If you've got other questions, I don't know how long we're going to do this, if you want to get them in, but I'll cover a couple that I've seen come through at the moment. And Troy asked, how do you identify approved databases in the semantic web? Really, really interesting question. We're definitely going to go over that more in the course. The best way I can answer that at the moment is to look for linked open data, probably at the US government site, the Fed, or if you're in the UK, on the FCO site, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. There are other sources of reputable data that are facts. Some of them are commercial, some of them are open, and within the course we're going to highlight to you the open data sets that you can use, and most of those, or some of them should I say, are government data, and that would include mappings, and you could take what Russ said about pizzerias and, you know, sort of everything else, and that is almost doable now. There's some other questions there. Tony, you're saying, so is the recommendation to stop curating? I don't think that
Nope.
is a recommendation.
That was not a
We're
recommendation at all.
No. It works now. What you need to understand is that you have a here and now, and you've got the semantic future, and we're in this overlap part at this moment in time. So while curation, manual curation is adding value, you know, you can take your own content and curate it and create more value for your readers and things like that. Carry on with that. What we're saying is that semantic technologies are opening up other opportunities as we move forward, and there's some really useful business models that could be applied. Haven't really discussed whether we'll go into available business models within the course, but I think that that would probably be something that we will look at.
Yeah, we're just saying that the future of curation is curating entire databases, not just snippets of content.
Yeah. Taking one set of facts, mixing it with another set of facts, and creating even a new set of facts that have added value. You know, sort of in the first webinar, I did mention about Tim Berners-Lee calling for data, and the example he used at the TED Talk when he called out for open data, that was around the time of the hurricane that hit, was it Haiti or somewhere like that, and there was absolute devastation, and the UN didn't know where to go to put the relief in place. And the community got together, created maps, correlated the data, and they were able to produce new maps where no maps existed. They were able to precisely locate areas that were worst hit, areas where people were, and that improved the humanitarian effort so much. It's just unbelievable. So with facts from one or more different databases, you can mix them, create new facts, and that is going to be a viable business model as we move forward.
Really exciting stuff.
See? Yeah. Can you see other questions there, Sue? Let's have a look. Just trying to go.
Here's one right here. I can grab it real quick. Is it good enough
Yep.
to use curated data in addition to the plugin you just proposed? I know that a lot of you are going to be looking for quick automated functions to the semantic web. Just keep in mind that, Alex, that most people, what they call curation is not curation. Curation, when it comes to the definition used in Curation Nation, is every piece of content that you repost has to have your insight or commentary either before or after, and it has to link back to the source. Okay, there's many plugins out there that do not. So curation is really a different topic than what we're talking about today, but Sue did mention in that late night conversation We have something on our wiki called RSS feed curation. There's nothing stopping anything from having a markup. So you might have, like Apple Investor News, our client appleinvestornews.com has. Each one of those feeds have been hand curated, and he mixes only the best sources of content with an entire feed, which automatically feeds content to the site. And that's not truly curation, but that's RSS curation. So we have to get our definitions straight here. And it really depends on what you're doing with the content. If you're trying to provide a better context and more education and you're staying on theme and on point, if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to contact me, especially if you're a member. We can talk about that. But just keep in mind that the current meaning of content curation is that you provide expert insight onto an individual post.
Brilliant. Now, QZ's got an excellent question there that I'd like to cover. I have a site where I've added a blog post with schema.org markup and OG. Is that safe? Yep, that's absolutely safe, and you can mix different forms of markup. The reason I'm covering that is John Mueller covered in a recent Hangout that where Google draw the line with this is if you try to mark up the same thing with more than one markup protocol, that's where Google are just going to look at you and say, don't do it, and penalise you. So if it wouldn't apply to images, for example, because obviously the Open Graph protocol, they want you to have images, your site title, but if you was to mark up other things, you know, using RDFA to say the same thing about the same product, that would raise a flag. So with products specifically, pick one type of markup for it and stick with it. Okay. If there's no more questions, shall we cover the last screen, Sue?
Yeah, let's do that. So
course?
I will say that over the course of this call, there's been a lot of questions that have come through, and some of them have been very advanced, and I know we haven't really answered them. And what my intention is to go through all of these questions and put together what we do for the third call will be content that'll answer those questions. So if you feel like a question wasn't addressed, just chill for another month and we'll get
to it.
Yeah.
I promise I'll be asking Sue and Kevin questions every day for all of us.
and you know, what I'd also say there is if during the course of this webinar, you know, sort of it's had the light bulb moments and over the next couple of days you get that burning question, please feel free to just raise a help desk ticket, call it question so that I can see what it is, and then we'll also go to include those in the next webinar.
Yeah.
So if I click through on the screen, Sue, and what's going to be in the course for you guys? So we're going to start with marking up your products, and that's going to be a step-by-step process. Now, some of you have only got one product, some of you have got thousands, and during the course we're going to basically be able to look at your products and show you how to do it, whether you've got one or you've got thousands. We're also going to show you how to specifically mark up your business, your location, and your business details. While that might be relatively easy if you go looking around, where we're going to take that a step further than anything else that's been out there, this is going to be particularly useful for any of you businesses that have multiple locations, or you've got clients with big businesses and multiple locations. There's a specific way of doing markup that you get the best out of it, and we're going to show you that in step-by-step detail. During the course as well, we're also going to find out if your products are already entities, and we're going to show you how to get your products listed in the semantic web. So if you've got an e-commerce site, that one element alone should make you chomping at the bit. We're also going to go over what I showed you at the beginning of this webinar, getting semantic search on your site. By the time the course comes, we'll have a little bit more information as to the effectiveness of it, but without a shadow of a doubt, having a really good search engine on your site, even if it's just content, let alone products, having semantic search on your site is going to make life easier for your customers. It's going to mean more money for you, and we're going to cover that in the course as well. Sue, do you want to handle this one?
Sure. I also want to back up to the semantic search for a minute, because the thing that starts to get me really excited is where you guys have got multiple WR1, multiple branded sites. So for instance, we have our wiki, and we've got a couple of different blogs, and we've got a couple of different websites, and you can combine all of those sites into one search engine. And so then if somebody's reading something on their site and they've got a question about it, they can hit the search bar and it can bring up definitions, it can bring up other related topics, it can bring your entire empire together into one search engine. So that's where, you know, being empires. But anyway, so then the last thing is preparing to usher in a new world currency. So we've talked a couple of times today about how society's gone from feudalism to commercialism, and now it's on its way from commercialism to informationalism. And the impact of how that's going to change our entire life, and it's going to change the foundation of commerce itself. And some of it is visible because we're in the middle of that switch already. You can look forward, you can see how things are going to shift, and you can start to rethink your business and prepare for how this is going to shift into the future so that you don't end up finding yourself the way that banks are going to end up finding themselves, being completely outmoded and all of a sudden without a purpose.
Whoops,
So,
microbanking runs the show. Hey, you know what's interesting too, Sue, is that when Kevin was first talking about this, you know, the first document Kevin ever sent me on this was the banking issue of markup. And I would love in the course, you know, when we get the course launched,
absolutely.
that we talk about that because, guys, this is not a pipe dream. Like, this is, as you guys know, money is the whole thing, whether it's a value fiction or not. Like, let's not get into those arguments, right? The bottom line is that money, the transaction is the organizing principle behind a lot of things. And that's certainly true on the web. So Kevin's first article he sent me was how these transactions and marking them up kind of launched a whole lot of these ideas. And I think we should really include a small section in there.
That's actually a really interesting migration that you can see from your grandparents' time to right now.
Right.
So our grandparents, they actually had gold and silver, or they had paper that represented precious metals, right? And we came off of that metal standard, the gold standard, several decades ago now, but you still, for a long time, you still had coins and paper in your pocket, and now, man, I can't tell you when the last time was I had.
Yeah, I mean, in the past you had stuff that meant nothing. Now you have nothing that means nothing.
And so now we've got plastic in our wallet, and yet how prevalent is PayPal? I can go to so many stores in the U.S. right now. I can check myself out. I can put in my PayPal ID. I don't even need plastic to check out anymore. And so this is an example of how our economy and our commerce is shifting, and it's shifting like crazy. It's going so
That's right. So would you rather have a rock to represent your value fiction or a piece of plastic to represent your value fiction?
Whoops!
Can you say?
Can you wonder? The only downside that I can think of what we're talking about is my little girl's just lost a tooth, and she's not going to accept my credit card under her.
I would. You can.
Yeah, I know you would.
And guys, I see a few of you have responded. Don't get me started on Bitcoin. Okay, so how long do we want to go, guys? I know that we've been on.
I think we should wrap it up.
It's 2.5 hours. This has been really informative. I want to express my appreciation to each one of you. We've had some incredibly experienced and high-profile folks on the call. I want to thank you for showing up as well and providing your support. I respect and love all of you. Those of you on this call are super cutting edge. I want to thank Sue and Kevin for teaching me a ton. I mean, nobody knows as much as all of us, so this is a really, really cutting edge course, guys. And we actually spent a lot of time deciding how is this course going to affect our brand. Is it too cutting edge? Like, what are the risks? And when we actually sat down and realized how many people like you we have in our organization, we took a risk, but it has proven to be the best move that we could have made. We're helping, we're getting a lot of help from you guys. The market has responded really positively because, you know, there are quite a few people that know what's coming. You can sense it, right? What do they say in the Matrix, like a splinter in your mind? There's something happening here, and it's really, really cool. Doesn't have to be fear and angst. It's all going to be a smooth and seamless transaction. No, really it is. From SEO to Semantic. And we're going to help you make it as smooth as possible. So, Sue, I'll let you wrap it up, and I'm going to go ahead and get off the call. I want to thank each one of you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll have information out to you within this next week about the course that's coming up, and we'll have one more webinar the first part of next month, and we'll get all those dates out to you. And I'm going to flesh out the members area, make sure that you've got access to the slideshow from last month and from this month, and get the replay up as quickly as possible. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I love you guys. I look forward to this future. I'm excited for it. Thanks, Kevin, for all the hard work that you put into this, and thanks, Russell, for being here. We'll see you guys next time.
Guys, we will be announcing, sorry, I just forgot, someone asked.
Okay.
We will be announcing the upcoming course within the next, what, Sue, couple of days?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So don't worry, it'll be in your inbox. We're not going to drop you a link here. We're going to go ahead and email it out to you. All right,
Exactly.
thanks, bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
The organizer